He betrayed me for fame. He never saw my revenge coming. I've always had a weakness for clocks. Ticking ones, chiming ones, the kind that look like they're about to announce a magical prophecy, which is probably how I ended up apprenticing under Master Aldrich Thorne, the most respected clockmaker in Briarwick. The man could fix timepieces blindfolded. I once watched him repair a cuckoo clock while talking to 3 customers, drinking tea and lecturing me about artisan discipline. I admired him the way dogs admire the person holding the treats. So, yes, it was a blow to discover he'd betrayed me. It started on a Tuesday, which feels rude. Betrayal should at least have the decency to happen on a dramatic day like Friday the 13th. I arrived at the shop carrying a crate of metal gears when Aldrich waved me toward the back room. "Rowan, my boy," he said, cheerier than usual. "I've recommended you for the Guild's Rising Artisan Award." I nearly dropped the crate. "Seriously?" "Absolutely. They'll expect your masterpiece next week. Your own design." He winked. "You're ready." I floated through the rest of the day so high on excitement, I probably could have powered a windmill. Over the next 7 days, I practically lived at my workbench. I designed a pocket watch that did more than tell time. It told the phase of time. Dawn, daylight, dusk, and moonrise all displayed on a rotating face with hand-painted illustrations. I even inlaid the brass with tiny silver stars. If clocks had red carpet events, mine would have worn sunglasses and acted aloof. When the guild judges saw it, they gasped. One actually whispered, "Brilliant." But then I noticed something odd. A row of gears inside the mechanism was misaligned. Barely, but enough that the watch would eventually jam. I stared at it in horror. It had been perfect when I'd left the shop. My stomach dropped. Someone had tampered with it. And there were only 2 people who even had access to my workbench, me and Aldrich. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he'd been cleaning up. Maybe a gear slipped. Maybe gravity was on vacation and forgot to do its job. But the judges shook their heads, declared the watch conceptually impressive but structurally flawed, and dismissed me for the year. My masterpiece was ruined. The award went instead to my rival, Cressida Morven, who shot me a sympathetic smile that said, "I'm sorry, but also not that sorry." That night, after the judges left, I stormed back to the shop, ready to confront Aldrich with at least 3 well-rehearsed speeches of heartbreak and disappointment. I expected him to be tinkering with some gizmo or humming one of his annoying, cheerful tunes. He wasn't. He was in the back room talking to Cressida's father, Master Morven, the wealthiest clock merchant in Briarwick. "So the boy won't compete again until next year?" Morven asked. "Longer, if I can manage it," Aldrich replied. "Your daughter will have no rival." I nearly tripped over my own outrage. He hadn't just sabotaged my watch, he'd sold me out. My mentor, my guide, the man who taught me how to polish brass with the tenderness of a gardener brushing dew from petals. He'd betrayed me like it was a casual Tuesday errand. I ran home with my thoughts clanking louder than a dropped toolbox. Aldrich wanted me out of the way. And for what? A bribe? Prestige? A lifetime supply of fancy imported gears? Fine. If he wanted me out of the guild, I'd take something from him, too. Something important. But remember, I'm much better with clever plans than with violence. And I don't believe in hurting people. I do, however, believe in revenge with decorum. The next morning, I returned to the shop with a smile so polite it probably frightened him. "Aldrich," I said warmly, "I've been thinking. I'd love to help with the King's Grand Clock you always brag about. You know, the one you're definitely finishing soon." His face turned the color of cooled ashes. The Grand Clock was the project he'd promised the palace 3 years ago and continually postponed. Everyone whispered he'd bitten off more than his gear-greased pride could chew. Well, perhaps," he stammered. "Wonderful," I cut in. "I'll start cataloging your blueprints." Cataloging, however, was not my real intention. I spent the next week gathering every note, every sketch, every blueprint of the Grand Clock. and finding the mistakes Aldrich didn't even seem aware of. There were dozens. He'd been overestimating his skills for years. Then I made copies, all labeled in neat handwriting. Errors discovered by Rowan Hale. I also drafted a letter to the palace politely explaining that Aldrich had accidentally mixed up the metrics and designs, common mistake, and that I, his dedicated apprentice, had carefully corrected the oversight for the integrity of the Royal Commission. The next day, palace officials arrived at the shop. Aldrich's jaw dropped so far I could have stored spare gears in it. "Master Thorne," one official said, holding up my corrected plans, "your apprentice has provided extraordinary clarity. We trust that with his adjustments, the grand clock can finally move forward." "His adjustments?" Aldrich choked. He meddled." "Meddled?" the official repeated, raising a brow. "We were under the impression he saved this project." In the end, the palace reassigned the commission to me. To be fair, they said Aldrich could still observe, which was polite palace language for sit quietly in the corner while Rowan fixes your mess. Cressida's father tried to defend Aldrich, but the officials politely reminded him that bribery, however hypothetical, was frowned upon. I didn't report Aldrich's betrayal directly. I didn't need to. The guild heard everything. Word spread faster than a spring unwinding. Students stopped seeking apprenticeships with him. Merchants whispered. Customers hesitated. His reputation, meticulously built like one of his clocks, began ticking backward. As for me, I completed the grand clock in 8 months. When the palace unveiled it, Cressida congratulated me with a grin so honest it made us friends instead of rivals. Aldrich watched silently from the side, a polite smile pinned to his face like a crooked clock hand. Afterward, he approached me. "Rowan," he murmured, "I suppose I underestimated you." I shrugged. "Everyone makes mistakes." "Yes," he sighed. "Some larger than others." I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. Revenge, I've learned, doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it just needs to quietly, elegantly set things right. And now that I'm lead artisan of Briarwick, well, time, as it turns out, is very good at rewarding patience.